Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon Bell. I'm the executive director here for the UCLA Executive MBA programs, and I am so excited for this event tonight. This event is what we are calling the EMBA Journey, Celebrating Success with the Support of Family. We know that deciding to do an executive MBA, while there may be one applicant and one student coming in as an individual, this is absolutely a very important decision to the entire support system. And there's a lot of thought that has to go into the planning, especially on the personal commitment side. And so we are so lucky. This is the first time we've ever done this in my 8 years here. We are going to have today a great panel of alumni, and they are going to be joined by their support system. So you will get to hear directly from those individuals what the experience was like, the success they found, the sometimes challenges they found, and how they worked through those. So we encourage you to definitely share this recording with those people in your support system as well, so they can understand how they are part of this decision as well and this experience. Before we get to the panel, I do want to give maybe 10 minutes just going over some high-level information that I think is relevant about the program. So let's advance to the next slide. So first of all, the value of an MBA. I think as support system and individuals are thinking about embarking on such a large decision, large time commitment, large financial commitment, there's definitely a lot of thought that goes into what is going to be the return on investment. Is this valuable? And so I want to touch on a few things. I think one, confidence is a huge result of going through a program like this. The confidence that an individual feels after going through the program, learning what they learn, and being able to move forward in their career as a leader. Additionally, both an MBA touches on soft skills and what we would call the hard skills as well. So it really is, it's the only graduate degree out there that ultimately is a generalist degree. It gives you a foundation in all of the different areas of business. And the idea is that many of our students come in as an expert in maybe one functional area, but they really want the breadth of experience and knowledge to be an impactful leader. And we have a lot that we do as well where we focus on learning problem solving, critical thinking skills, and the emotional intelligence piece. And this is funny because this quote came from not the quote up here, but I heard this from a student recently. You get 20 hours of executive coaching through this program. So once a month with a third party executive coach that you meet with once a month. And I had one student tell me that his wife said that she thought the best part of the whole program was the executive coaching because she saw real changes even in their relationship with how she interacted with the student, with her partner in really developing more of even that emotional intelligence piece as well. Also, it's an incredible opportunity to meet people that you maybe would have never met before. So really expanding your network, diversifying it. And I'll talk a little bit, and you're going to hear from the panelists. This is not just an opportunity for you as an individual to meet new people and expand the network, but as well as for your support system to do so as well. So really thinking about that. And obviously differentiating yourself, earning more for your family. These are still things that the MBA can do in the marketplace and can really accelerate, advance your career, and maybe make things possible that you didn't even know were possible. So this is just a little quote here from Sudapan about the ROI. And I think each family unit really needs to define what ROI means to you in making a decision like this. Next slide. So the biggest thing I hear that I'm going to touch on is time and money. That's probably the biggest thing that each of you are thinking about out there is, will I be able to make the time for this and, allocate the correct financial resources? So I'm going to touch on very briefly, because we have a lot of other events that go really deep into our academics and our schedule. So please, we'll share those resources afterwards. But basically, if you're thinking about the UCLA EMBA program, we either have an every other weekend or one weekend a month option. The every other weekend is Friday night and all day Saturday. And the monthly is also Friday night and all day Saturday. And the monthly students, when they're on campus, it's also a bi-weekly weekend. So it's kind of this super weekend where everybody is on campus together. When it comes to electives, those you have a lot of freedom of where you add those. It may be once a month on a Sunday. It may be over the summer. It may even be embedded in your schedule in the last 2 quarters. But really, I think the way to think about it is it's a weekend commitment every other weekend or once a month. As far as the Global Executive MBA program, that is a little bit of a different schedule structure. That's a 6-quarter program where basically for 1 to 2 weeks every quarter, you're traveling to a different location. So that has a different schedule that may or may not work better for you. Next slide. Cost. So we do not hide the cost here. This is definitely a big investment. And, I share here some high-level details about the total cost. This is for the class of 2026. The class that will be entering in fall 2025 is the class of 2027. You can expect up to a 5% increase on this. We have a great on-demand how to finance your MBA video. So I encourage you to watch that, visit our financing page. We share a lot of different resources about how to fund this. Anything from if you potentially have 1099 income, there could be some tax write-offs. We have a great financial aid office to talk about loan options. So definitely even some ideas how to pitch your company on this. So definitely please use those resources since we know this is a huge part of the family decision to invest in something like this. Next slide. So I like to share a typical class profile because as I mentioned, and you're going to hear, I'm sure on the panel today, the network is not just yours as an individual. I mean, people make friendships, even though this is a program that is the average age is 39 and people may think, oh, I'm beyond making, new friends. People make lifelong friends in this and truly meaningful relationships that extend outside of the classroom. And so this just gives you a little flavor for kind of how diverse this network is, especially when it comes to different industries and functions. And again, just meeting people that you may have never crossed paths with that will enrich your life. Next slide. So beyond the EMBA community, which what I just showed on the previous slide, shared on the previous slide, there's also so much going on the Anderson campus. And these are things that both you, your partner, your extended family, your colleagues at work, they can come to. We probably every week we have a different conference on campus on a different topic. Here's listed all of our different centers that put on these different events. So definitely it's encouraged to go to those and bring people who are relevant. There's various clubs and associations you can get involved with as well. And the EMBA program specifically, during your 22 months in the program, will host 2 official family events where we, as part of the weekends when you're on campus, you'll bring your family and everyone will be able to meet each other and celebrate this exciting time. Next slide. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we have some great international travel opportunities in this program. One of them, which is built into the schedule, and it is quite common for people to bring a significant other or a parent or a sibling or someone with them, a guest, to be able to share in this international experience. There are certain parts of the course that it is a course. It's a 1-week, 4-unit course. So there are certain aspects of the course that maybe your guests can't attend, but meals and social activities. And then a lot of times I hear that the guests actually interact with each other on the trip. And it's a really nice bonding experience and way to get them involved as well. So I would have been remiss if I didn't mention how exciting that is. Next slide. Again, we've got a lot of great resources. We have an entire application webinar that is recorded and walks you through every step of the application. But I do want to let you know, if you are targeting to start in fall 2025, these are the upcoming application deadlines. We are on a rolling admission, so please submit your application whenever you're ready, and absolutely reach out to us. I host a Q&A every single Tuesday and Thursday from noon to 12:45. Always jump on there, and we will share afterwards a lot of great resources for you to continue to learn about the program beyond just today. But I'm going to stop now and instead go ahead and we were going to bring on our panelist. I'd like to thank Debbie Quigley, my colleague, who has put together this incredible panel of alumni and students. Vanessa, you can go to the next slide so people can start seeing who, as we bring spotlight and bring all the various panelists on, you'll be able to see who's going to be featured. And what you can see, I meant to mention this on the class profile page, over half of our students have children and are parents of various ages. So you do see some kids pictured here. Even Marta, I think, had her baby during the program. And so that happens as well. And so it's very supportive from that angle as well. So I will turn it over to Debbie and the panelists to get started.
Thank you, Shannon. And thank you, panelists, for being here again. And thank you for all of the prospective students. And we might actually have even some current students here with us today. I would love to first start by, again, welcoming you and having each of the panelists introduce themselves and give us a little background of why they decided to pursue the EMBA degree at UCLA and how their partners and families might have been involved in that decision. I know, again, Shannon's mentioned it's a big decision. It includes a lot of, thought about time and money, et cetera, et cetera. So let's start today with Lizzie and Joaquin. Welcome, Lizzie and Joaquin. And we'll get into more detail on each of our panelists here later, but just wanted to get that introduction of sort of why you decided to pursue the degree at UCLA and that thought process between the two of you.
Awesome.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Shannon, your presentation made me want to go back to school.
I love it.
So I'm Lizzie, this is Joaquin.
Hi.
And it was a childhood dream of mine to go to UCLA, and I'm from Florida. So I definitely wasn't thinking about it when it was time to actually go to undergrad, but I was very excited to apply to Anderson for graduate school. Living in Los Angeles, it was nice to be able to go back to the school that I've been in for 20 years.
And I grew up here as a Bruin fan and not a Trojan fan. So the reputation UCLA always hit home with me. Very respectful. Happy to be married to a Bruin and Bruin by family.
Yeah. But we own a business together. We've owned our app together for several years, and we've always been a team, like almost as long as we've been a couple. We have owned businesses together. So going to business school was very 100% a family decision. And we'll get into more of that with you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Marta and Greg, I know Marta's here somewhere.
She just made it.
Is she in the house?
She's in the house. She just walked in.
Okay, I can skip. Why don't we talk to Tyler and Jennifer first? Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. So nice to be here. So Tyler Dennison, this is Jennifer. I think our story, she wasn't exactly involved in the decision-making process here. We went on our first date maybe a month before the program started. So that was all me. For me, I always knew that I wanted to go and get my MBA. I'd been in the military. I got out, I don't know, 7 years ago. And it was something that I wanted to do to really go learn the language of business. And I got a finance degree and, learned a functional area. I got some experience in finance, but I really wanted to figure out how to be a decision maker, right? And learn the holistic language of business. So That's what drove me to do this. I'd moved down to LA at the beginning of 2022. And so UCLA was just a perfect fit for me. So reached out and had my first calls with Shannon to try to figure out if this was the right fit. And put my application in, and I guess the rest is history.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Wow, 1 month after starting to date, and you're already signed up for an EMBA, right, Jennifer? All right, love it. Okay, Marta and Greg, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
I made it.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. So I don't know if you heard my little preamble, but we just wanted to do a quick introduction and sort of why you decided to pursue the EMBA degree at UCLA, and was your partner involved in that decision? And if so, how?
Yes, actually, he was very involved. He's the reason why I did it. I remember I actually had considered doing the program before I started at my current position. When I started the program, I was VP of Clinical Affairs, and we knew that we wanted to grow. And my husband, so I'm a DO by training, a doctor of osteopathic medicine. But the position that I had grown in is an administrative or management position. So not a practicing physician position. And I knew that I wanted to kind of gain the tools to grow in management. And my husband was the one that was like, you have to do this program. I had actually just given birth to our second child. And I did not think I was going to get in. And when I remember I was breastfeeding when I got the call, and I turned to him and I was like, how am I going to do this? And he was like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this like 100%. And I was like, okay, fine. Then yes, I accept. And I think it was the best decision that we've made. Honestly, even before ending the program, I got promoted to 2 levels higher to EVP of strategy and clinical affairs, like 3 months before ending the program, which was amazing. Yeah, it was definitely worth it. But it was a lot of hard work, but it was worth it.
That is amazing. I'm going to ask you how you juggled all that later. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Stephanie, Jorge, and Bella, welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course. My journey wasn't the typical one. I didn't actually get to go to any of the informationals regarding Anderson. Didn't even know that Anderson existed. To be honest, just one day after 10 years of running, well, actually 12 years of running our own company together, I told him, I said, I think that I've taken this as far as I can with Professor Google and that I need a little more information. And he said, okay. And at first, what I had found was the Masters of Healthcare Administration. Because of what we do in behavioral health, I thought that that would be a great fit because the way it was presented to me was like Masters of Healthcare plus, the Masters of Business Administration kind of like had a baby, and it was this. And I was like, okay, let me do that. I got into it. And when I was in their microeconomics class, and I had to read the necrotizing effects of bovine formula on infants for the 20th time and find all of the p-values and t-scores and all that. So I was like, this has nothing to do with business whatsoever. And I had I think we were actually in a trailer in a campsite in Oregon when I had that, like I was doing the class right afterwards. I talked to the professor and I said, yeah, I don't think this is the right fit for me. Yeah. And then I talked to him and I'm like, I don't think that's the right fit for me. So then I went back and I started investigating EMBA programs. And then it got into my mind, well, what if, I'm sure UCLA has an MBA program. Let me see what they have. And they were able to squeeze me in. I think I got admitted to class about a week before it started. So
we don't recommend that, but thank you, Stephanie.
It was definitely, yeah, I was definitely from a fire hose for sure.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Do you want to quickly introduce Joaquin and your daughter, right, Bella?
Yeah, so I've got this is Jorge. Everyone calls him Jorge.
Sorry, Jorge, sorry.
And then this is Bella. This is my little volleyball player, high school student over here. So we juggled that too with him working and having to take care of dinners, and she had to deal with him more often than dealing with me and stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of my classmates actually saw me in front of volleyball courts doing my coursework with earbuds in and going, "Go Bella."
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, and so Mana and Kong, welcome, and let's hear from you. Yeah.
Hi everyone. It's also so good to see everyone on the screen. I miss you all so much. And it's really taking me back to the class days. I hope you guys are doing well. So sorry, my husband are not together right now physically in person, but he's the one with the sparkly background. That's Kong. So for me, I think the reason why I applied for this program, it was a time of transition for me in a lot of ways. I was working in big tech at Facebook for 6 years at this point, working in product marketing. And then I switched into very traditional entertainment marketing, working on marketing movies. So if you guys know of John Wick or Hunger Games or any of that, those are the projects that I've kind of been working on, leading the marketing strategy there. And so it was kind of like going like 100 miles per hour working in tech to like just hitting a wall and being, in a completely different place, in a completely different industry. And also I was elevated to vice president in the new role. So I was also making pretty critical business decisions, and I had no idea how. I didn't know how to make the well-informed critical business decisions, and how do I present myself as an executive where people are looking up to me to make these types of decisions. So I was going from an executor to all of a sudden a very senior position, and I had no idea how to handle that. So, everything that Tyler was saying in terms of understanding and knowing the business acumen and the language, but also being able to know how to lead as an executive and to be an emotionally intelligent leader was something that I really felt like I needed to learn very quickly. And so I would say the EMBA program of the 2-year or the 22-month program was from a timing perspective, also really critical as a decision for me. I will say that Kong and I had just gotten married when I had decided to apply for the program. And he knew that, I've always wanted to get my MBA for a long time. And so right after we had gotten married, I was like, okay, what are we going to do next? And I think, he and I were both talking about applying for the MBA program, and it just seemed to make sense with everything that was happening in my professional life. And so he was very supportive and encouraging. In fact, he was very involved in the application process and helping to read all of my essays and editing everything and really making sure that, like my application was a strong one and all of that. And he continued to read all of my papers throughout the program as well.
Excellent job, Kong. And you were involved in any of the pre-decision? I know you must have had a lot of decisions to make with the wedding and planning for school and scheduling and all that.
Yeah,
Were you involved a lot in the upfront part of it?
Yeah, I think it was quite a bit. I think Mana mentioned we were newlyweds, so this was a big decision. We also just moved to LA, so it was a fairly new city for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we knew that this was going to be a pretty big commitment overall, and was not only going to take time from us being together, but also just would be like a significant financial investment. So obviously a lot for us to discuss. But I think once she got in, it wasn't a decision of, whether or not she would go. That was already set. It was just how we're going to accomplish it and what are the decisions we need to make and how are we going to prioritize her getting in and making the most out of it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, thank you so much, panel. So for the partners, I would love you guys to jump in here. And so let's go back in time. You guys have decided to pursue the EMBA program. You show up, to the 1-week LF kickoff, and you're going into classes. I would love to know from the partners and family members how you sort of readjusted and rebalanced your own roles at that time. And, maybe some kind of emotions that went with that and how you approached that and kind of turn that sort of corner into managing a lot of new responsibilities. Anyone can jump in. Greg? Yeah.
I'll start because it was
great.
Yeah, it was a emotional roller coaster for me. I didn't really anticipate having to pick up any slack. I knew that she would be busy and I would have to lose her a little bit and share her. But picking up slack around the house with cooking and cleaning, I'm pretty good in the kitchen now, thanks to the EMBA program. But also it was emotional. Like losing her and watching her do all these amazing things and not being a part of it was really hard. And I had to address that pretty early on. And I'm glad we did, because once I addressed that, it went from jealousy to encouragement. And that was a big step for us. And once we did that, it was more fun for me. And I was able to, go to the events and meet people and enjoy it much more once we had that conversation and I made that change.
Joaquin, I thought you were just our classmate the entire time.
After we had that conversation, I pretty much was your classmate.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll jump
Greg,
in.
you want to jump in?
Yeah. So at the time we had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
By the time the program.
By the time Marta got into the program. So, we were obviously very excited. I was pushing her to do it just because of the kind of person she is. I knew that she would just excel. And so I really wanted her to do this. And also I had been dating her when she was in medical school. So this wasn't my first rodeo. It was a new experience with the kids. But, I had already been with her in when she was in medical school. And I was I had an idea of what to expect. And I think, what we did, we just kind of made sure that we had a plan, and we both agreed that when she got in, I would kind of take over as the parent. And, I work in the entertainment industry, which may be a surprise for many of you here in Los Angeles, but, I had more flexibility with my schedule. So I was able to take care of the kids at night, put him to bed. And also on the weekends, I, try to, plan things for the kids to make sure that, I was able to, because, 2 kids, especially at that age, can be pretty challenging. So I made sure we had plans and that I was able to take care of the kids and handle it by myself while she was focusing on the studying. It wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't, especially with 2 young kids, but, it was fun. And I think, the fact that I wanted this for her just as much as she wanted it really encouraged me and pushed me to really help out as much as I could.
That's awesome. You were really partners in it, and sounds like you did a lot of planning.
And I have my little
you have your t-shirt to prove it.
I'm still supporting her.
I love it. Wonderful. Jorge and Bella.
Hi. Yeah, so during that week when we discovered that this was serious, that Stephanie was going to go through this program, it hadn't yet, hit us, as to what this would all mean for us. Very interesting house, everybody was quiet, so that way, we can focus on the studies. But it was a very interesting experience to begin with. We were proud, we were supportive, we think, with everything that she needed to do. My schedule shifted completely, go pick up Bella, you have a schedule. My phone was going off constantly, I said, you have this to do, you got that to do. And I said, I just looked at the honey-do list and yeah. And I'm like, why Dad not here yet? So it was an interesting shift, but we ended up getting on a rhythm, to how our schedule would look like, and we made it through. Just very proud of our Steph and what she accomplished. So
amazing. Bella, how did you feel about your mom going back to school and your parents' sort of roles shifting a little bit, and maybe time that you spent with your mom was studying and not playing, or maybe it was both?
It turned very serious the second that I knew she was going to have to be leaving every other month or every month to go to class. And I'm like, Mom, like she's leaving for the weekend, especially that long week. I was like, because I would always be texting my dad. I'm like, where's food? Where you at? But yeah, I tried to support her as best as I could. I mean, she always does everything she puts her mind to. So I had so much high hopes for her.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much. Jennifer, I would love to hear how you juggled both things.
Well, I feel like I had it easy compared to everyone else. I mean, we have a lot of strong partners on this panel. And for me, like Tyler mentioned, I wasn't really involved in the planning. So I just kind of came into it. And, you know, we didn't have kids at the time. So I just became a dog mom and, you know, took care of the dog more. I like cooking already. So it was easy and you know, easy to support Tyler. You know, he's super driven and was very excited about it. So I feel like I was on the passenger side, just kind of cruising along with the dog.
That's awesome. Mana and Kong. So as newlyweds, how did you approach this?
Yeah, I think Mon and I just sort of attacked this. Like we kind of came in with a pretty tight game plan. Like I think similar to Greg, I think we approached this with aligning on our priorities, and using sports terminologies like been very much like I think of myself as the MVP, but in this situation, I knew that, you know, Mana with her opportunity with schoolwork, that schoolwork and her networking were essentially the MVP. And so anything that she could do to like invest in our future was like the North Star. And so like in my place, like I immediately accepted more of a supporting role. And I think that really helped in terms of our game plan. It also helps that I like to stay really busy. So any of the unnecessary things that I didn't achieve, like, you know, the two priorities that we had focused on would immediately go to me. So it did take a mental shift. Obviously, planning one thing and then doing it can be, you know, completely different experience. Like you can plan and say, I got this. And when you're doing it, it is quite tough and you have to roll with it. For example, prior to whoever cooked didn't have to clean, right? And then after her starting school, I did both cooking and cleaning, which, you know, Joaquin's like, yes, yeah, absolutely.
I see a lot of heads shaking.
Yeah. So
I
like
heard someone's like a stir fry expert here too.
Yeah. So there's a big mental shift there, obviously, and physical shift as well. Like just your free time just kind of goes away in supporting that. But I think the other thing too was just understanding that we each have a role to play in this. And so as Mana is being MVP, if I ever caught her cooking or cleaning or doing laundry, I would tell her to like, you know, stay in your lane, stop doing that, let me do it. And then you keep doing what you're doing. So I thought that was pretty helpful. I think we stuck to it, and there were the most interesting parts were when she was on break and she would be cooking, and I would say like, "Get out of here," and then she'd be like, "No, I'm on break." I'm like, "Oh, okay, then." Like, all right, then I guess that's acceptable.
I love it. Thank you so much. So you guys touched on this a little bit in terms of like becoming a community and how you all know each other. And obviously one of you in each of the groups is the student, and the other one is the partner, the support, and so forth. Can you guys tell me a little bit how you did get involved in the community and how you brought your partners in to sort of maximize your success in the program?
I'll tag Lizzie and Joaquin for this question.
I was our class social rep. So I was responsible for planning a lot of the extracurricular events, and Joaquin was very present at pretty much all of them.
I mean, even before that, though, I think UCLA did a really good job of having events that we're invited to. And, uncomfortable the first few events because I think it was uncomfortable for everybody. None of us knew each other. And I think just showing up to those events made all the future things we did easier. And then we, all the students were very nice and very welcoming to most of the plus ones. That's what we call ourselves, plus ones. And it made it easier to come. And then after she became social chair, it was just fun. And I was like, how can I help? How can I be a part of this?
Yeah.
Did any of you end up going on a global immersion trip?
He did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which one did you go on, Joaquin?
Well, it was IBR. So when we went to
IBR, yeah.
Oh, not immersion. Yeah, IBR to Italy. We went to Italy.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
George went with me to Chile. In fact, that's how Mana met George when we were there and stuff. So I dragged him along to that. I actually told him, I said, I don't care that you have to make lesson plans for your classroom. I understand, but we're going to Chile. And he's like, that's not even on our bucket list. I said, it is now. Let's go. Bags, we're going to Chile. And he made it happen. This one was jealous. You could see she's kind of pouting over there. So, but yeah, no, he went with us on that one. And that was really a wonderful experience. I think he actually hung out with everybody more than I did. I was like the grandma who wanted to go to bed by 8, 9 o'clock, and everyone else was partying, and he's out there partying with them. So yeah, he had a good time.
Yeah, but similar to the Brown family, it is a little challenging at first. Stephanie sees, her cohort every day. I mean, every week. So, then when you get in there into that scene, it was a little challenging at first. But I found that I think the UCLA culture has definitely embraced, the families. So that way, when you get into that social scene, it's you do have, talking points, you do have meeting points, and of course, and Steph did a great job of saying, hey, this is what Mana is into, and this is what, this group is into, and, just brought me into, up to speed. So that way, I can enjoy myself as well.
I think the great thing about this program, and to his point about the culture, I mean, yes, it is going to be a great experience in terms of classes and the program and the education and the information that you're going to, get out of the program. But also the social piece of it is also huge, because if you're in business school, it's also about networking. It's about getting to know your classmates and your cohort, right? And so I think the way in which the school, but also the students organize outside of the classrooms is a pretty critical piece of this program. And because of those, opportunities, I'm able to know everybody here and their partners on a much deeper level. So I think that George and I don't know how many Pisco hours we shared together in Chile, but I think that that's also just again, I never really thought, I thought that my network would only be my classmates, but it extends beyond that, right? And so as a student, it's not just about you and your classmates, it's also about who you bring on board onto the journey with you. And so I try to bring Kong to all the social events as much as possible. He also works a full-time job, so I know it wasn't as easy for him to come on a lot of the international trips with me as much as I would have loved him to join. But I think when you think about the program, yes, it is absolutely you and the program, but also think about who else you're bringing into it with you, because it's going to be an extension to your experience.
Thank you. Tyler, I would love you and Jennifer to share a little bit about your involvement in the community and starting a family. And if you wouldn't mind sharing your story, I would love to hear that.
Yeah, sure. So we welcomed baby almost 6 months ago. So we have a little, just about 6-month-old in the house now. But I think, Lizzie did just a phenomenal job as our social chair of setting up the right types of events to get everyone involved. I mean, we did Top Golf. I remember Mana giving everyone lessons and, catching a bunch of people up on how to swing a golf club. We did whiskey tasting, which was a lot of fun. And I think, a special moment for us was we went to Paso Robles, right, for a wine tasting event on a weekend. And so Jen and I, this was October, I think, of last year. And Jen and I we took the Friday off. We were going to drive up and go through Santa Barbara and meet everyone up there for that night. And it was a Thursday night. I think Jen realized that she was pregnant. So we looked at each other and we're like, all right, what are we going to do? Because we were already agreed to, to split this bus. We were staying with Lizzie and Joaquin somewhere, and we just wanted to go, also. And so Jen, in the morning, we stopped and she made a quick trip to the doctor to get some blood work done, and then we went up to Paso Robles, and we still did our stops on the way. But Jen was able, I think, to connect with so many people in this program, and especially with Joaquin, right? You guys shared this commonality of being the partners in this program, and you both attended so many things, and it just so happened that these two were the first two that we shared the news with outside of Jen's sister, and so I think like that was just super special to us to be able to have that close of a connection with our classmates 1 year into the program, and so I wanted to just share that because it really just goes to show how close of a community we really became. You see each other once a month, but the communication's like constant. You're always talking to people. You're on Zooms. You have study groups. So it's a lot more than just that in person as well.
It's that old thing in the first class when they say, look to your right and your left, and those will be your best friends, and everyone laughs and thinks it's a joke. And then you're like, wow, these are really my best friends, right? That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. That's really special and something I'm sure everybody will remember forever who was there. I would love to open it up for some questions from the audience. If you'd like to either come off mute or drop a question in the chat, excuse me. We'd love for you to have an opportunity to chat with our amazing alumni here who have been through it and made the decision and were supported so well with their partners. Anyone like to come off mute and ask a question? If not, I have lots more questions. So Bella, Lizzie, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Erin. I have a toddler myself, and so I'm very
Hi, Erin.
Hi. I'm very curious about how you guys navigated like mom guilt when you're away from your little one, because that's something that's definitely top of mind for me.
May I start this one off? Because mom guilt is real. It was very hard to leave the house every Friday with literally my children clinging off of me for dear life. And to like walk out the door and kind of just like shove that in the back of your brain because you need to concentrate on really doing a good job, learning everything that you're, invested in and paying all this money for, and like being in a positive disposition to be able to absorb all the experiences that you're about to experience every other weekend, getting calls that a child was sick or a child had to come home early and just kind of being like, but you got this, right? And, I need to refocus. That was really, really difficult for me. I think I really want to award Greg the real MVP title, as Kong was saying, because if it hadn't been for him being like, I've got this, just focus, like you're doing this for them too. You have to remember that. I think probably many times I would have failed. So thank you, babe.
Yeah. And, I just want to say, I think this is where like the importance of having a supportive partner really comes in, because, those are the moments where like, I would kind of step in and, try to distract the kids or bring them back towards me, and also comfort her to tell her that, they're going to be okay. luckily they have an awesome dad. And
I will say, still to this day, my 6-month-old just gravitates towards Greg much more than towards me. And so in the past 6 months, I've been trying to rebuild that bond. And it's getting there for sure, but I do appreciate the bond that they've built. And it's something really beautiful because the first one is much more a mama's boy, and the second one is now a daddy's boy for sure.
That's the payoff.
Can I just piggyback off of what Marta said? I don't think it matters if you have a newborn, a toddler, or a teenager. Mom guilt is something that I think that we just kind of live with. You know, it's hard to not feel that guilt when you're not there for those certain things, or you're not able to do what they ask or need of you. I think this is where the support network, like Marta was saying, really does come into play. Not just him. Like, I even tapped into my brother-in-law. I tapped into friends who, you know, she was playing club volleyball. So if I wasn't in class, I was at volleyball tournaments with her. And if I couldn't be at the volleyball tournament because class was going on, then if he wasn't available, then we were like, okay, well, who's going to take you? And then we were relying on her volleyball teammates to take her there too and stuff. Or if he wasn't home and I had to go to class, and she got the pleasure of sitting in Jane Guerin's business law class a couple of times. Definitely highly recommend that course. She's a hoot. And very smart lady. But I think give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace and some room. This is only 2 years out of your life. And your toddler is forever, right? I mean, they're not going to stay a toddler forever, but your child is forever. And tap into your network, get the support that you need to make this happen, because in the end, it's going to pay off for them down the road.
So may I say something, Erin? Because I think it's very important. You have very, you're spot on. I just want to say that, you know, if we want to wait until, you know, your child is older, I don't think it makes too much of a difference, because it's still, you're going to be wondering at that phase of their development whether, you know, you are there and present enough. So that question will always be there. So it's very important to tap into that network and to see how it is that you can, you know, achieve your goals as well. So Erin, what a great question. And I hope that we help.
Thank you guys so much. I do have a couple questions in the chat. Tilford says, I have 2 kids, 5 and 7. So there's a lot of 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds here in the crowd. And wants to know if you had to do it over again, if for couples, in terms of the support dynamic and to maintain emotional health, was there some practices, books, podcasts, games that you would recommend that really helped you get through the process of the 2-year program?
I would say for me personally, being the student, I just realized that I had to communicate more clearly what I needed, and kind of set the expectations of that, and kind of asking, like, how can you support me in this right now? So I think just having open dialogues about what's going on in the moment, and what you can contribute to your relationship and taking care of the kids in that moment. And, you know, the partners realizing that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of times throughout the 2 years where they're going to be doing a little more heavy lifting than maybe what they have done in the past. But this is only temporary. It's not a forever thing.
If I may add, and I think Mana kind of, or maybe Kong, alluded to this earlier, but you have got to really step up your A game on organizational skills in order to do this program well, and in a way that you actually come out stronger as a relationship. Really, I think for Greg and I, what was the most important sacred rule was that I was in the biweekly. So every other weekend I was in school. So the free weekends had to be free. So I had to plan my whole schedule so that I got all my studying, got all my testing, got all my projects, everything done by Friday nightfall, so that, you know, we got to spend Shabbat together and we got to do family events on Saturday and Sunday on the weekends that I was off. That time was so needed to recharge. And so you really have to like be militant about your schedule.
Yeah, and actually Marta drew a calendar in the kitchen, and she had everything planned out, all her exam dates, her meetings, interviews, work schedule. And then we had, you know, when we were taking the kids to school, like everything was filled out. Every block of the day was filled out, so that we knew, you know, even if I was able to reach out to her, I was able to look at the calendar and say, okay, well, this is taken, you know, we can do this here, this there. And I also want to say, you know, for mental sanity, I think it's very important that you schedule some time for you and your partner just without the kids, if you can, you know, just to kind of like reset, recharge, and, you know, just have a good time, and so that you can come back and, you know, get back into it with like a fresh mind, you know, and a rested mind. So, but yeah, it's challenging, but it's very doable.
Right. So one of the questions does have to do with sort of the financing end of it. Veronica asks or says, what has kept me from the MBA program is the debt, especially knowing I'll hopefully be sending my kids to college in 5 years, starting with her oldest. Can you share more about sort of how you approached financing your MBA and any advice on how to balance funding your own MBA versus college for your kids? I know some of them, your kids are younger, but you're probably already planning as MBA graduates, planning for that, right? And just how you kind of thought about that and planned. It sounds like there's a lot of thought and planning going into both the emotional and the financial end of all of this. Anyone want to kind of comment on that?
It's okay.
Sorry, I will say, because a lot of people are fortunate enough to work for some of the bigger companies that help finance the MBA. My company, when I started with it, was a startup, and now we're in 7 states. So I didn't really have the availability to receive that type of funding. And that was a very real concern for me, even though I didn't have to pay for college for somebody else. But it's not my answer is not about financing, because I have debt. But as I mentioned, you will see the return on your investment. I believe the average is within a year or 2 of the EMBA program. And with my particular scenario, the return was extremely substantial. I will say it was on the higher end of the percentages of the statistics that we see, where, you know, they say like you can either get like a 30%, 50%, a 75, or even 100% increase. Like mine was on the higher end of that percentage. And it was 100% because of this program, because of all the strategic thinking that I learned in the program. So I would say to the person that's about to put somebody through college, definitely look into scholarships and all these different other forms of funding. But also remember that at the end of this, hopefully, you will see a much bigger income rise than you're currently having right now.
Anyone else have thoughts on that? Bella, are you in college yet? Are you almost?
No, but her brother started college the same year I started the program. I mean, fortunately for us, I mean, we own and operate our own company, so I was able to fund my MBA through that. But I see in the chat that Veronica says that she works for a nonprofit affordable housing developer. So there may be some things out there because of the fact that you work for a nonprofit that might be able to help you fund it without taking on so much debt. I don't know what your timeline is for putting your kiddo through college. our child, in all of his infinite wisdom, decided that he was going to go out of state for college. So, yeah. But
That helped.
right. So that made it a little extra expensive for us. And our business was not funding his education, just mine. So it does kind of put a squeeze on it. If you have a little bit of ramp time, just, for him or her, just squirrel away as much as you can. High yield savings accounts are great. Other investment tools are out there for that. But agreeing with Marta, in my case, I don't necessarily get a big return on the investment, other than I've, maybe much to some of my employees' dismay, I am back and with a vengeance, and my company is doing better than what it was before I started. So that's the return on investment that I have for that. But in your case, if you're going to work for someone else, I've heard so many stories of people switching up where they work and going from one place and going to something that is like 10 times, 20 times better than where they were. Even some of our cohorts having been laid off during the time that they were with us, either right before starting the program or throughout the program. And now they're, way better off in their new position now. So, earlier George mentioned that there's never going to be a right time to do it. There's always going to be something else. So you just have to look at your situation and see what makes sense for you. But it is doable if it's what you want to do.
I have a quick question because I'm dying to ask this one. For all of you, in terms of having your partner go through this program and gaining so much wisdom and skills along the way, did they help you think about your business in a different way, or did you share in those discussions in a different way when you were in the program and now that you're an alumni?
I definitely did. I really wanted to get as much out of the program for me personally as possible, not just socially, but the classes she was in are all very interesting. I read a couple of books that she had to read through them, and some of them were definitely helpful through business, but some of them were just helpful in life, like the 5 stories where you learn the 4 beats of storytelling. I mean, just telling jokes, that helps you tell that. And then there was a choice architecture, and one of the books they read kind of helped with messaging. And one of the examples was teaching your kids, helping them to remind to brush their teeth. I use simple messaging so that you can help them to remind that. So business school is about life, because you're selling to individuals, and there's just so much to learn. And I just found everything very interesting.
Fantastic. Anyone else?
So
I will say, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Martin.
So I will say that in the time period, sorry, that is my child screaming. I apologize. In the time period that we were in school, the whole mega mergers in the media industry happened. And I happened to be taking a class. Okay, 1 second, baby. Okay. I happened to be taking a class that got us thinking about researching his industry and what was actually happening. And I got such a clearer view of what actually was transgressing in the media industry and what his choices were, to the point that it helped us make decisions about what his next steps should be as well. And that's just one example. I mean, throughout the whole program, there were a lot of different scenarios where I could easily apply what was happening in class to decisions I was making, to how, I mean, my relationship with my CEO grew exponentially. Like, I'm his right hand now. And I definitely can attribute that to the way that it taught me how to think. It wasn't just learning, balance sheets and formulas. It was learning how to express yourself and think like a CEO, because you should be the CEO of your own life.
I love that.
Yeah.
So,
yes, go ahead. Sorry.
So one night, Stephanie was finished. She was exhausted, and she was done reading a textbook on business and management, a thick textbook. And she left the light on, her night light on, and she was, with the book at her side. And so, out of curiosity, I picked it up, and she was reading a section on human resources. Right? It was a thick section, and I sat there and I read the chapter myself, just looking at it from our experience and our perspective as to why it was that she was looking through that section. And I ended up highlighting sections of the text. I'm like, oh, we should do this and we should do that. And, and I just left it there on the nightstand for her. And the next day she saw it. But what was interesting was, to see how it is that we can work with people. And I've always been interested, I'm a school teacher, so I always work with people, and so how is it that you look at the resources that you have and how you can keep your employees happy, and how it is that you can keep the business up and running, and how does the law apply to that, and just the ethics of it all. And it was just fascinating. So while she was doing her coursework, sometimes I was listening in the background as to everything that everybody else was saying, and I was like, I like that. I should really be taking this course myself.
And after I was done for the day, he'd want to have extensive conversations about what he overheard. And I was like, I'm done.
I love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Any other thoughts or piece of advice before we close tonight?
I'll just offer one thought. I think we touched on it a little bit, but especially when it comes to your support system, don't be afraid to ask for help. I think I've always been very independent, and I've been kind of a go-getter on my own. And that's what you're going to see with most UCLA Anderson folks is high achieving, very independent. And I was never used to asking for help. So for me, it was very hard. I was very uncomfortable with asking for help. But then it got to a point where I was like, I knew I could not do it on my own. And the only way to make sure that you can set yourself up for success in the program and sustain yourself throughout the 22 months is by leaning on people as much as possible. So for me, I did not like asking for help, but it got to a point where I was like, I can't do this on my own. And my husband stepped in and he really helped with everything. So you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable with asking for help. I think that was a big takeaway for me very early on. And if you can pick that up fast and early in the program, you'll be good for the rest of the program.
Very amazing advice. Thank you, Mana. And I just want to thank you all. It's really special to hear your stories and how you're such a strong community. And I'm sure that you'll all keep in touch for many, many years to come. I can attest to that as a graduate from a long time ago. But sharing your personal stories and how you supported each other through the program, before, during, and beyond is just amazing. And just want to thank you all for being here tonight. And thank you for our prospective students for being here. And please feel free to reach out to any of us. I think all of our names are probably on the emails, if that's okay, to reach out to you on LinkedIn. And we're getting lots of thanks in the chat. So appreciate your time and wishing you all happy holidays. And hopefully we'll see you in person soon. And thanks so much. Shannon, do you have any last words?
No, it's always inspiring, even after 8 years. So thank you. This was a really, really unique event, and really appreciate and applaud you all, and for all of your accomplishments, for both Bella too, and all the way through to the partners and everyone. We really appreciate your time tonight, and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you.